Today I want to talk a little bit about the tailstock on my lathe. The last couple of times I've used the lathe, I've noticed a little bit of binding when I twist the handle. That tells me it's time to take this apart, thoroughly clean it, and lubricate it. The first step of the process is we want to fully eject this tube. With the tube fully ejected, we can go ahead and remove the handle, the locking handle, off the back of the tailstock. There are two 3mm Allen screws that we need to remove. I didn't fully take the Allen screws out, I just brought them to the surface, and the handle will slide nicely right off of the post. And then I can twist this by hand to loosen up the tube and bring it completely out of the lathe. This tube can be pushed into the tailstock, and using a screwdriver I can push it toward the front of the tailstock where I can get a hold of it and pull it right out of the housing. I'm just going to use a little carbon choke cleaner and some paper towels to really kind of clean this off. Probably not the exact right substance to use, but it does a great job, and it'll really take all of the grease, the old grease and the old grunge off of this piece. It doesn't leave any residue, and once the pieces are dry, I can reassemble them and go ahead and grease them up. Alright, that ought to do it. Let's head back over to the lathe and put this back together. Over at the lathe, I'm going to use a little more carbon choke cleaner to clean the interior of the tailstock. I'm just going to kind of block the hole on the opposite end. I'm going to spray some in there, a liberal amount. It's running out pretty good. And we'll use a screwdriver here to sort of get our paper towel in there and collect up all of the loose grease and debris. I worked a little more on this tailstock off camera, ran another paper towel down through there with the screwdriver, looked inside of the cavity, and it looks good and clean. What I want to do now is, this is the threaded section that is used to move this barrel in and out. I'm going to go ahead and put some lubricant on it, then we'll reattach the washer and put it back into the tailstock. What I'm using is it's a garage door lube. It's a synthetic lubricant. It's unfortunately the only thing I had. I'm sure there's probably a better product, but this is what I happen to have in the shop. I'm going to use a screwdriver here. I can run that right up. Perfect. Came right out the back. All right. Now what I want to do is I'm going to shoot a little bit onto the back of my barrel here. Now you'll notice you've got this this cutout section here. That needs to face the back because that's where the handle goes in and locks this into place. I'm just going to work this in and out a little bit, and I'm going to catch it with the threads. And as I catch it, you can see I can spin by hand and move that back in. Okay. Next up, I'm going to bring my handle back over. There's a flat spot on the spline back here. I want to make sure that the two Allen keys are going to get into that flat spot. Now I'm going to tighten it down a little bit. There's one. Once again, these are 3mm screws on this particular lathe. And there's two. Okay, you can see that the barrel is kind of moving a little bit. That's because we don't have the handle track. You know what? Let's shoot a little lubricant on the handle so that way, there we go. It'll keep them from rusting, should allow them to move nice and easy. Okay, I'm just going to lock that down and loosen it up a little bit. And you can see just how easy that now moves. I'm really happy with that. There's no more binding. I'm going to work this in and out a couple of times just to make sure that I get the lubricant spread all over the place inside of the tailstock. Now what I want to do, I obviously don't want to get this silicone on my project, so I'm going to eject this all the way. I'm going to wipe it off. This silicone lubricant will prevent rust. I can't believe how easy I'm able to retract this barrel. It's amazing. Take a look at just how smooth the action is on the tailstock. And watch this. I would not have been able to have done that before. Not that you'll ever do that while you're turning, but it's just nice that it moves so freely. Now, one thing I didn't do, and I thought about just a moment ago, was I probably should have shot a little bit of that silicone lubricant on the threads of that, that initial bolt that operates inside of this barrel. I didn't, but I don't see where it's causing a problem. And if I notice any binding at all, I'll go back in there, pop it off, and spray a little bit on it. I'd really like to thank you for joining me in the shop. I have not been in the shop much lately, and I'm noticing when I do come back out, my tools are a little worse for it. Not being used is not a good thing. I'm noticing a little bit of surface rust and some things like the binding issue with the tailstock. So I took an opportunity. I had about 10-15 minutes, and I thought, well, let's just go ahead and clean this and lubricate it and get it back up into a decent working order. So there may be a few more of these videos if I have time, and if you like them, I'll keep showing them. If you don't, well, then I won't. But I really appreciate you hanging out with me. I want you to know that you are always welcome in my shop. Come back and see me again real soon, and have a great evening.